The next government of the United Kingdom is likely to be the Tory party, and it is their policy to support the application for member of the European Union from Turkey, which is a Muslim country of over 77 million people. Germany is the only other country with as many, if not slightly more, people to its name. If Turkey is allowed to join, then we are going to see the European Union dominated by the Muslim community. Not because of physical numbers, but because of the sheer active involvement of the Muslim state and Muslim people in the affairs of state. They have their own views on law, which is then applied as state law. In fact, there are parts of the Middle East, for example in Saudi Arabia, where there is no distinction between Muslim law and state law. They are regarded as one and the same. And if Turkey joins, there is no doubt that there is going to be a significant swing in the European Union towards Muslimist ideas of the law. Now, there is another aspect to Turkey's involvement, and that is the cultural differences between the majority of Turks who live in Anatolia and those who are westernized and live in the peninsula around Istanbul. Those are the people in the western part that most European Union management and officials see and negotiate with, but they are not the majority. The majority are hundreds of miles further to the east. They are peasants, and they live a totally different life. And they are to be seen in increasing numbers in northern Cyprus, where they have been effectively injected by the Turkish government to undermine the westernized Turks who live there and who have much more in common with the Greek Cypriots in the south than they do with their supposedly fellow Turks who've been imposed on them from Anatolia. And if, as I have done, you go there and you have a look at just exactly how those two communities struggle along together, you will find they are in fact quite separate from one another. They have very little dealings. One of the Turkish Cypriots that I met recently when I was there talked about the fact that he knew nothing about his neighbour, who was from Anatolia, but he knew everything about his Greek Cypriot friends who lived 100 miles south of the border in the Greek part of the island. And he felt as a minority within a minority on the island. There's another aspect as well to Muslim immigration across the European Union as a whole, and it's to do with birth rates. I don't think enough people yet understand how seriously Western Europe is collectively committing suicide. On average, each couple ought to produce 2.1 children for our population to be sustained. There is not a single country in the EU that currently meets that minimum standard. Not one. In the UK, for example, it's less than 1.6. Even if we reverted tomorrow to the population growth which is regarded as sustainable, 2.1, it would take nearly 100 years to recreate the indigenous population which is currently dying off. Now, this is not true of the Muslim immigrants. Muslim women tend to have 3, 4, 5 children each. And it is entirely possible that within 50 to 100 years, there will not only be a Muslim majority in the Mother of Parliaments at Westminster, but there will also be a Muslim Prime Minister who would then have the power to start imposing Sharia law on this country. and there would be nothing whatever that the indigenous population could do to stop it.